Hi, I'm Scotty. I service, repair and restore vintage and antique mechanical clocks. Welcome to Scotties Clock World. Today we've got a Japanese wall clock that we're going to clean up and repair. The brand is JC Super Deluxe. It's a 40-hour striking clock. There's a lot of nicotine on the glass, both inside and out, and a little bit on the face, so we'll clean that up as we go along. Okay, let's get started. First thing we'll do is remove the hands. Loose them off with a multi-wrench first. Undo the nut. It comes off quite easily. The hand comes off, you won't need a puller for that. Put them aside. Then fingernails under the hour hand and it just pops off. Now we'll take the dial off. Comes out. Pick them up with a pair of tweezers, the screws we've removed, and put them in a dish so we don't lose them. That should do it. Yep. Right, one over the back. I'll have to clean up the slot on these screws before I put them back in again. We've got a special tool for doing that. Number 3. That looks like it. Right, we'll take the face off slowly and put it aside. Right, there's the movement. As you can see, 2 hammers that strike on 2 tubular gongs, those rods. So we will investigate and see how this movement works. We'll remove the movement now. I'll remove the gongs first, get them out of the road, and then I'll come back and we'll remove the movement. Right, I've removed the gong rods, so we'll now remove the movement. Held in by Phillips head screws. They appear to be original. Put them aside in the dish as usual so we don't lose them. Second one. Bit of a tricky angle there to get into it. And this one here. Bit easier. Change the screwdrivers did the job. Take that screw out, a pair of tweezers. Now tackle the last one again. Here we go. into the tub. And there is the movement. That's the back of it. And the front. Rack, pinion. We'll have to see, this appears to be something in relation to how tight that spring is wound. We'll check that while we're doing it. All the parts seem to be stamped out, so it's not an expensive clock, that's for sure. But let's start taking it to pieces and we'll see what we got. We'll start off by winding up the mainsprings and putting a mainspring clamp on them to hold them. Pretty decent sized spring and it's quite strong. So it's a 40-day movement, so it's going to need a heavy duty spring. What do we got in the way of a mainspring clamp for that? That's all right. That will about do us. Now we'll turn the movement over so we can see where the click is. We've got to loosen the click and let the spring down so the mainspring clamp takes all the pressure from the spring. So we'll need a let down tool, which is one of those. Pop that onto the winder. Wind the spring up a tiny bit. Put a screwdriver into the spring on the spring clamp, loosen it a tiny bit, and we'll let the spring run down till the clamp holds it. Put the clamp in the center, we don't want it to go to one side. Wind it up a tiny bit more, loosen the spring on the click and let it wind down. How's that spring? Clamp's about right now. Almost there. Wind it up a tiny bit more. Hold the movement. Loosen this click on the spring. And there it goes. That'll hold it in place. I'll do the other one off camera because it's not easy to hold and wind and work the camera at the same time. As I'm winding the going side spring, you can see that marker is slowly moving around. That little spring there is keeping it taut. Right, I'll put the clamp on, then I'll be back. Let's start to take the movement apart. We'll undo these 4 nuts here. First one. Second one. Third one was a bit loose anyway. The fourth nut up here has a spring attached to it, so we'll have to remember that when we put the movement together again. We'll put that in the strike side box. Now, when we're removing the top plate, we have to remember there may still be a little bit of pressure on some of the parts from the spring, so we'll take it to pieces very carefully. Now we'll loosen the other side. Expect that it'll have a bit of a run down too, so we'll keep an eye on that. Lift that top little bit off. I've got the top and the bottom plate off now. It's a strike side spring. We'll disassemble that and we'll put all this into the ultrasonic soon and clean it up. That's the going side spring. The striking gongs, or the gong strikers. That's the spring that tensions it. I'll take the pieces apart on the other side now. All right. Pair of pliers. We'll remove these C-clamps. Probably have to use a pair of fine-tipped tweezers to hold them to remove. There we go. They are tiny. That's the first one. Now this one. Into the dish. That into there. We'll have to undo that spring before we can take that spring out, and we've got a spring on here to tension the rack. We'll take that out and the rack will come off. Into the strike side bin. Now, that'll come off. I'll take that spring off there, and then we'll come back and see where we're up to. I notice one of the wheels has a bent tooth, as you can see there. So we'll replace that before we put it back into the movement. The rest of the movement's all the pieces, so we'll get it ready to put into the ultrasonic to clean it. Right, we warmed the ultrasonic up to 30 degrees. So we're going to put the parts in now. Take the basket out. First we'll put in the back plate. Then the front plate. The strike side wheels. The crutch and the pallet, going train wheels, and we'll put the 4 nuts that hold the plates together into a little container, put it in also. Right, we'll put the basket back into the ultrasonic. Make sure everything is immersed. Turn it on for 5 minutes. Away it goes. The ultrasonic is finished. We'll remove the basket. Put a tray under it so it doesn't drip everywhere. We'll take the parts out and wash them and then clean them up with lighter fluid. Okay, ready for the next step. We'll fill a dish with water, then start to transfer the parts into the dish. Shake them round a bit. That'll get rid of the ultrasonic cleaning fluid on them. Certainly look a bit cleaner. Now the back plate and the front plate. Next, some warm water in another tray for a second rinse. before we put them into the shellite. Warm that up a little bit. I've got it. Now transfer the parts across to the second rinse. Front plate, back plate, motion works, crutch, going train wheels, strike train wheels. We'll let them soak there for a minute. Well, we get the next part ready. Shellite or lighter fluid. Just fill up a tub. Then collect the parts and put them in and immerse them. Plates are a little bit big, we'll have to do them in 2 halves and put them aside to dry. One set of wheels. Another set of wheels. Nuts that hold the plate together. Pallets and crutch. Motion works. We'll take these out of the shellite before we put the front plate in. Last but not least, the front plate. Out on the cloth to dry off before we put the hot air gun on it. Now we'll use our hot air dryer to dry the wheels. On low, we don't want too much heat. Got the crutch on there. Motion works in the snail. Quick run up and down the crutch. Front plate. The lighter fluid evaporates very easily, so it doesn't take long to dry them off. Going train wheels, second, third and the escape wheel. Back plate. And finally the 4 nuts that hold the plates together. It's getting a bit hot. Okay, back to the bench. Today we're shooting the 4th video in the series of our Japanese 40-hour clock. We've removed the movement from the clock, how to look at it. We've disassembled the movement and got it ready for cleaning. We put it through the ultrasonic cleaner, and today we're putting the movement back together to check on the bushings. These are the tools you'll need. The bushing press, vernier calipers, light hammer, screwdriver, broaches, that's a close-up of a brooch. It's a 5-sided cutting tool that's used for reaming out bushes. Set of tools to use in the bushing machine. Pin vise, pair of tweezers, and a box containing various sized bushes. These are the front and back plates I've put together. This is the escape wheel. We're going to check the pivots. See if we can get a better view here. That needs to be replaced. So does that side. Way too sloppy. Take the plates apart. I always mark which bush I'm working on so that you don't ream out the wrong one. That one there. Just check for the correct orientation. Now, first thing we do is we measure the diameter of the pivot. Set our caliper to 0. It's 0.9596 of a mil. Place that face down in my foam box so I know which side we're working on. We write that down. 0.96. Now over to our bushing assortment. We look at the numbers. We'll look on the front for a start. We're looking for 0.96 internal diameter, which is A there. So it's the first line. 0.95 is the number 41 bush. Number 42 bush is 1 mil, so it's too big. So we'll use the number 41. You'll notice there that the C diameter, which is the outside diameter, is 2.5 mil. So that is the cutting. So that's the cutting tool we'll be using for the final sized hole. Write all that data down so we don't forget it or make a mistake. Interestingly enough, working on a Japanese clock purely by coincidence. I'm using Japanese Irishizuku ink, and the colour is Yamabuto, and my fountain pen is a TWSBI Eco. with a 1.1 stub nib on it. Highly irrelevant, but it fits the topic. There's the colour of the ink. First thing we do is line the plate on our bushing tool and find the centre of the hole that we're going to bush, which is there. Then we move the support pieces in. That one's not going to touch too far away, so we'll have to support the plate while we're drilling it out. Remove the centre finding tool. You'll remember the maximum diameter was 2.5 mil, and I've found over the years, instead of going directly into the 2.5 mil to cut it out, it's a lot of work, I go down 2 sizes and start with that, then move up to the next size and then final it off. This is 1.20. That's the first reamer that I will use. Slowly lower the reamer onto the hole, support the plate and turn the handle at the top, pressing lightly down. These small reamers are very easily bent if you press too hard on them. The next reamer is a 1.97 mil. Tighten that down. Bring the handle down. Support the plate and turn the handle. That's about the speed you want. Any more than that, you can bend the cutting tool. Keeping the plate in place so it doesn't move. From time to time, lift the reamer, clean away the material that you've cut and start again. That's the second reamer. We now want the 2.50 size hole, and this reamer is 2.47. So that will make a nice tight fit when we hammer the bush into place. These things are super sharp. They work very, very efficiently. Now we'll put the hammer end on. We'll get our bush out of the box, number 41. There it is, that tiny little link. Take it out, turn it over, make sure the oil sink is facing out, and place it on the hole we've just drilled, and then align it so it's approximately level. What we'll do now is we'll bring the top down and give it a light tap with our hammer, and then have a look to make sure the bush is going into the hole. Yep. Undo the clamp, take the plate out. That's the new bush there. That's the oil sink on the outside of the plate. We'll now ream the bush out using our broaches. First we'll check to see which size brooch fits. It's that one there. Goes partially through on the outside, the rest is on the inside. We'll now put it into a pin vise and tighten it down. Check it once again to make sure it's the correct size. Before we start, we'll attempt to put the pivot into the hole. It doesn't fit. It needs to be reamed out, so everything is go. Now, when you're using broaches, you have to broach the hole 90 degrees in all angles. If it goes in at an angle, then your wheel won't spin. So you can use the legs here as a reference point to make this part here parallel to that. I'll take that out, put it back in again, and then slowly twist it 3 or 4 times. Take it out, blow away any brass that's there, and check the wheel to see if it fits. That goes in. Okay, that'll fit all right. Now we'll do the top. Now we'll do the bush on the top plate. Then we'll put both plates together, and then we'll be able to see if our bushing setup is correct or not by how freely the wheel spins. Okay, I'll go and make those measurements again and write them down, and then we'll do the top plate. Right, I've done the bushing on the top plate. We'll now put the 2 plates together and check the spin of the escape wheel. A little bit more light on the subject. Bring that in, up to there. That's okay. Now let's have a look and see. It's spinning freely. You can see the end play on it. Both of those bushes are nice and tight now on the pivot. Okay, I'll now put the entire going train in, and then we'll check it to make sure they all mesh properly. The top off. Third wheel goes there. The top on. Make sure that goes underneath. That one, and that one. I'll put a nut on that to hold it in place so that the 2 plates don't spring apart. Okay. Pair of tweezers. First up, we'll put the second wheel in. Get that into place. That's better, it'll give us a better chance. He goes into there. Gently. That's got him. Right. They're all in place now. Nope, one's dropped out. Dropped out before I could get a nut on to hold the plate, so we'll pop them back in again. And that one, that's on. Hold them plates there. Tighten that nut. Put another one on the top. Now we can look and see. Spins nicely. They all spin very freely. Got end play, backwards and forwards. Very good. This is our Japanese 40-day movement that we're working on. We've done the bushing, it's been cleaned, we've redone the bushes as necessary. I'm starting to put the movement back together again. Both the springs are in there. The first wheel on the strike side I've got in. We're going to have to put all the wheels in individually because the hour wheel here has to sit under all the other wheels, so we can't put them in like we normally do and then drop the motion works on top of it. It's not going to work that way, so we've got to put them in one at a time. It's going to take a bit longer. We'll spend more time lining up the bushes and the pivots, but that's the way it is. Okay, going side, we'll put the first wheel in. Get it down as close as we can. Have to open the plates up a little bit to let it in. Let's see how we go. Getting it aligned. Drop down again, take them up. Has to go. Let's think I'm going to have to pull that up a bit higher to get that in. Under there. That's pretty close. Okay. Look at the top and bring the pivot back to there. Right, now we've got to get this one done again. Line up the plates. First wheels come out, put it back in again. Got him. Okay. That's all right. We've got the first wheel there. That's looking better. Right, we'll continue to add wheels up on the going side till we get them in. Okay, next wheel. It's in the pin, in the bushing there. Once again, open the plates up. Pivot into the bush. Hold it tight. Round. Check all the other ones. There we go. We're getting there. As you can see. Right, the next one is the escape wheel. That's the escape wheel. That's the escape wheel. All right, open the plates again. Escape wheel in, the base. Check the top pivot. Realign any pivots that have dropped out while we're opening and spacing the plates. That one. That's almost there. That one. Got him. Going side. Over to the strike side. Realign the pivots that have jumped out. There we go, a little bit tight, got him. And the going side. Now we'll put in the wheels on the strike side. Give it in there, open the plates, everything will drop out. We'll put them all back in again. It's a good experience. And that is that one. Pop the first wheel back in again. Oh, we've dropped the escape wheel's dropped out. We'll leave that to last. It's in. That one's in. Hold the plates together. Right. Going train. It's still right. Hi, I'm Scotty. I service, repair and restore vintage and antique mechanical clocks. Welcome to Scotties Clock World. It is a little bit tight. Okay, that's got him. Hold that. Replace this pivot back into its bush. That should have it. Okay. And the going side. Put the plates again. That's in. You see what I mean about it takes time doing it like this. If you can't put them all in at once, you're doing them a bit at a time. First wheel's popped out again. We've got him. Now put a couple of nuts on that for a moment to hold it. Whoop. Not easy with cotton gloves on. There we go. Now we'll put the hammers in. You can see there's a spring there. That spring that holds that arm there under a slight pressure. We'll loosen these screws up. and slide the hammer in, which isn't particularly easy, but and then okay, so raise the bottom plate, the top plate a little bit down this end so we can get a bit more. Up. Got to come up further yet so that we can get we're going to have to open these plates bit more to let that slide in. We're getting there. Slowly bring that pivot down and across. Tiny bit too much. There we go. Squeeze the plates down, tighten the nuts. There we have the hammer. Under tension of the spring so it returns to its original position each time it's struck. Today we've got a problem with the wheel. You can see here, got 3 seriously bent teeth. There, there, there. Someone's had a rough attempt at trying to fix it up by heating it, and it didn't work. Right, these are the tools we're going to need. Piercing saw, some flux, some solder, a couple of files, a scribe, a 600 and a 2000 mesh stick, a piezo burner, and a set of vernier calipers. The thickness of the wheel is 1.1 mil. The thickness of the brass plate is 1.69 mil. It always needs to be a little bit thicker so that we can file it down and finish it off when we've done the teeth. Right, let's remove a lot of this stuff out of the road first. You'll see on our brass plate here, there's some blue coloured ink down there. That's engineer's layout ink, which is already dried. And I've clamped the wheel over the top of that. We're going to scribe 4 teeth onto the plate. It will leave a mark in the engineer's layout ink. Then we'll cut it out with a piercing saw. Right, let's scribe it out first. I've sharpened the scribe so it's as thin as it can get, because there's not much distance between one tooth and the next there. So we'll lift that up so you can see it a little bit easier. Then we'll run round with the scribe and mark the shape of the teeth. Back again. Yep, that seems to have marked. Take our vice grips off without losing the wheel. We can have a look. You can see the shape of the teeth there that I've marked with the scribe. Now we'll cut this piece of plate out and start to cut the shape out. You can see that I've scribed a line above the shape of our teeth and down the end there. We will cut this piece out initially and then we'll start to cut the teeth. I'll get a start on this and then I'll finish it off camera because it's going to take quite a fair bit of time. I'll start to cut the block out now. This is a very fine blade on the saw. 32 teeth per inch. It takes a long time to get anywhere. Just move slowly along the line, removing the dust from time to time so you can see where you're going. These piercing saw blades are designed so that you can make round moves. The thicker ones you can only cut in a straight or an oblique line. These blades are very good for this sort of work, and also if you're cutting out a new set of hands for a cloth. The saw cuts on the back stroke, so I'm pulling it down slowly. Never in any hurry, it takes a long time, lots of patience. If you try to go faster, you'll start breaking blades very, very quickly. Okay, I'll return soon. I'll put all the wheels between the plates and avoid the movement. We're now going to put on the rack and pinion and the suspension spring and the pendulum leader. First we'll start off the motion works. That piece there. Pop him on. That piece there is called the snail. This is the rack under there on that pillar. Fits down. Now this wire spring here has to go down into that hole, which isn't going to be easy. And then it hooks out back through there. Get that to pull out straight first, hopefully. Down through the hole, catch it, and bring it back up again, and turn it round. Right, that'll provide a little bit of positive pressure on the rack. Now I'll put this on. We've got a circlip to put on each one of those in a second. I'll turn it round. Get one of the circlips, tiny little things that they are. That's it there. And it has to go on to that pillar there. Use a set of pliers to push it on without losing it. And there we have it. Now we'll do the other one. Lucky I didn't lose that. Pop that on there. Pair of pliers again. Very carefully clip it in. Okay, rid of that. We'll oil those in a moment. But before we do that, we'll put the spring on that retains that piece under pressure. Undo the nut. Slides over there. Nut back on again. Then we'll tighten the nut down. Always very handy to have a small set of spanners that you can modify to fit the individual nuts on your clocks. I've got about 12.5 of them specifically for different size nuts. Okay, got pressure on it, holds it in, and that. We'll set the snail a little bit later. So, what we'll do is we'll put turn that round that way so we can see it. The suspension spring in. And close it up. In. Out a tiny bit for it to go in, that's better. Now, drop it down. That's got him, right. We'll oil those too in a moment. Right, we'll put a drop of oil on the new parts we've just put in. On the rack. On the cannon arbor. I'll put a tiny little bit in behind the spring. There goes our oil bottle. Now I'll hang that up on a test stand so we can start to set up the other pieces on it. The Japanese clock is basically finished now. It's been oiled and I cleaned the chrome bob with some 0000 fine steel wool, and it's now running pretty well. I'll get a close up. The escape wheel turning. I'll put the rest of the movement back together and I'll put it in the case, then we can have a look and see the final product. Now we'll hear the clock striking. That click was going into warning. Now it'll strike. Now we'll hear it strike. That sound was the clock going into warning. Now it'll strike. Now we'll see the hammers striking. They are there, you can see them. Going into warning. Start to strike. And that's the clock ready to hang on the wall now. This is the rack hook right here. That pin, when you put the gathering pallet back on before you hammer it down to keep it firm, that pin has to fall